Hey, 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 we're back, we're black, I feel better, and I'm wearing a brown Ambition t-shirt, Ambition. Hey, Mandra.
Ambition. Hey, birthday girl. How you doing?
Thanks, one time for the birthday girl. So it turns out I had an upper respiratory infection that I had to have antibiotics for. So.
Cute.
I know. And for the first time in like 20 years, they actually had to issue me like an asthma pump because I could not breathe for real.
Oh my day.
They were like, girl. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I guess there's like something going. There's a thing going around.
Well, how was Kelly? And now you make me want to say Regis and Kelly. How was Kelly and Ryan? I saw you got to go on with her and her husband.
I did.
Her husband.
It was only by God's grace because the night before I was still like I didn't know what was wrong with me. So I actually went. Some of y'all, old head asthmatics remember Primatene Mist. I remembered back in the day when I didn't have like my my prescription pump, I would go to the CVS and get a Primatene Mist, which is like a general pump, So it's the only thing that kept me from like hacking up a lung. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. And so, but they were, I have to say, I've been on a lot of sets and hands down, the nicest crew. Everyone was nice. Every single step of the way. Shout out to, is his name Ed? Yeah. He was like the producer of my segment. And he was saying that they're known as like the nicest show in television. I mean, Kelly was
lovely
so nice.
To hear.
Oh my gosh. Kelly was, so Ryan is actually sick with COVID because, so it was her husband, Mark. Mark was nice. Kelly was nice. I mean, it was almost to the point I'm like, do they beat y'all here? Because everybody.
Do they what?
Do they beat y'all? Like, to be honest, I'm just like,
oh, God.
Was so nice.
If they did, I think that's what happened to the Ellen show. It wouldn't be that nice.
I know, but honestly, when I tell you they were so nice and, I had such a good time and I had not felt that comfortable on set, like probably ever, just because they were so nice. And they're like, oh, we want you to come back in January to do some tips. So I'll be back in black.
Oh, congrats. That's dope.
Thank you.
Excited for you. And I'm glad that you got better just in time for your birthday.
Girl, I was like, I can't live like this. I'm like, what is this? Yeah, it was. So besides COVID, because I got tested like 4 times, I'm like, it's got to be the vid. It wasn't. It was just, like I said, there's this upper respiratory, it's flu season. It wasn't the flu, but there's some infection that's like floating around. And so because of like all my travel.
Still other ways to get sick, y'all. Be safe.
Girl.
Where I'm still wearing the damn mask.
Like, still. Yeah, no, honestly, I would suggest it. I'm not fully like over. I'm like 90%, so I feel pretty good. But yeah, yesterday was my birthday, and honestly, it was one of my best birthdays. Like, it was nice because I had a bunch of family and friends come over. If you guys have not seen, my friend Cabral forced us all to do the Cuff It challenge. So poor Alyssa had to teach us how to do it. I know, it's on my IG.
It's hard. I finally did that trend, and it took me like 20 minutes. I'm like, it doesn't look hard. But it's like Alyssa trying to rub your stomach and pat your head at the same time, kind of.
Alyssa was so sick of us. There's my doorbell. I don't know who's
Is it up?
ringing my doorbell. Yeah, it's up on my IG.
Okay,
No, the Cup It. Like the Beyonce. Like,
no, I know the challenge. Yeah. I just hadn't seen it on your page yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, so first of all, he made us all watch the tutorial like 13,000 times, and then poor Alyssa had to guide all these old folks. Like, how you put the music on? She was like, oh my God. So she's leading in the front, but we had such a good time. Honestly, it was such a fun birthday. It was like, it's my first without Jarrell. And it was nice because usually I would wake up in the morning and like downstairs, as soon as you come downstairs, it'd be like, he would have a present and balloons and whatever. And Tracy remembered that. So, I came downstairs and they were my balloons, which was really nice. And I don't know, like, it was just like, I'm in a space now where I'm simultaneously holding space for both grief and gratefulness, It's like, I didn't think you could hold both at the same time. And I'm doing that. And so it was just such an awesome birthday. Just like really great food. Like all the kids were here. Like I said, my Sunday supper crew. So it was just a really, 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 nice time. And I was just, it just was one of my best birthdays yet. And so, it was great.
I'm glad. I feel like getting sick was one of my, you know how when you have something big coming up and you're like, please, Lord, not now. For the past 2 weeks, I have been cramming and like working so hard because my Mandi Moneymaker Academy, finally, I was transitioning it from, I used to teach live and, you know, Tiff, now I'm doing an on-demand course. So I was transitioning everything onto the platform that I'm using. And it was a 2-week grind and I was up. Launch day was Saturday. And, you know, I set the deadline myself. And then I was like, but I got it done and I'm so happy. Yeah, everything is going smoothly. I'm so happy that I made this transition. Transitions are hard.
Yes.
But I know, what's that thing you said? Like, you want to make decisions now for
Pre-pivot.
like when... Pre-pivot. Yeah. So this was more like a pre-pivot, and an investment in like a you know, like more expensive platform and all of that. But I think it was really smooth. I think all my experience as a manager trying to like, you know, people with change can be a little trying to tell the team, hey, we're going to change the way we do things. That's how I feel with my Mandi Money Makers. I'm like, y'all, it's going to be some stuff going on. You're going to have to think about what you're going to do. And you're going to have to let me know and it's going to be fine.
Yes.
Just do not be alarmed. And, you know, had a couple people who were alarmed and panicked.
Of course, there's always going to be.
There's always a couple. I know. It's just like managing people. Like, it's just like being a boss. I realize that now. But yeah, I'm really proud of that. And a good friend of mine named Charity, she has a book that comes out tomorrow. So I want to give her a quick shout out. This book is phenomenal. She came and talked to my makers about it. It's called Power, The Rise of Black Women in America. It is out tomorrow. And it's how Black women embody the American dream, defy oppression, and win. So it is... Yeah, it's a wonderful book. And it was challenging for her to find, I know, to like get the agent and get the publisher and all of that, because I feel like we are so used to stories of Black women struggling. They were like, you want to write a book about how Black women are doing great and thriving and, you know, doing better than our previous generations and all of that. And Charity's like, yes, I want to write a book like that. So she did. And I'm so proud of her.
Can we put the link in our show notes?
Oh, yes, I would love to. Yeah.
Yes. So all the girls can count. Does she have like a book page or like, you know, like, or do we get it directly from?
She does not have the Budgetnista playbook for a book launch.
That's okay. I'm just thinking because in case she had like, you know, like charity such and such.com or something like that. I want to, you know, but no, but I know. I wish I had like, I don't think so. But by the time you guys get this episode, I will have the right link. If she does have a landing page, I will have it there for you. Well, can we talk about another book by a Black woman that was so transformative?
Yeah.
So I recently read, have you heard of the NAP Ministry?
Yes.
OMG.
Of course. I love it.
So I've been following the NAP Ministry on IG. Just you know, I honestly just thought it was like, oh, fun memes.
Yeah.
No. So the woman's name who started the NAP Ministry, she calls herself the NAP Bishop. And it sounds like, oh, cute and kitschy. No, it is a political movement. She's got a manifesto, a book called Rest is Resistance. And what I tell you, if you are a Black woman, you need to read this. Get the audiobook. It was so powerful. Like, I'm someone who, y'all know, I like to read a lot, you know, listen to a lot of books. But one day, usually that's like unheard of. Usually, you know, I'll listen to over a few weeks or a week or so. No, all in one day. I literally took a 2-hour walk just so I can finish it. It was so powerful. Her like motto or mantra is rest is resistance and we will rest. It is just so powerful. The book is really just about how we were all overworked and overwhelmed and that how you do not have to earn rest. And that is your divine birthright. And like, we're all doing too much. And if we would all just slow down just for a moment, you know, that we could live more fully, deeper, happier, more centered lives. It is a love letter to Black women, you know, and I cannot recommend it enough. Yeah. Like, honestly, I almost wept when I finished it. Honestly, like that's how much it spoke to my spirit. Because, you know, I mean, you already know, you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you work so hard. And I'm not saying you're not supposed to work hard, but sometimes we lose sight of like, wait, so when does it stop? Like, what is the end goal? Because sometimes work begets work. and where do you draw the line in the sand? And it was just such a beautiful book that helped me to reshape and rethink what is it that I'm working toward. And how do I integrate rest more? Because you hear me now, my voice sounds like this. I mean, if you're used to my voice, it's a little huskier than normal, but I was sick because of lack of rest, honestly. I was getting sick. I felt it. And instead of resting, I pushed and pushed and pushed until I got an upper respiratory infection and had to use an asthma pump for the first time in 20 years. And meanwhile, I don't have to work if I don't want to. So it's not like, oh my gosh, Tiffany, because how you going to pay these bills, girl? How you going to? So it's like, so I really needed it. And I suspect that most of y'all listening could use that book too. I cannot recommend it enough. It's beautifully written. She's a poet. So there's a lot of, that's the sense you get when you hear her read it to you. But it's just a really powerful book. Rest is Resistance, by Trisha. We'll put the link in our show notes too. Trisha Hersey, Hersey.
Yeah, I can't wait. That one's on my list. I don't know how you get through so many books, Tiff. I take walks too, but sometimes I just want to listen to the birds. And I have a bad habit of when I have a moment of peace, I'm like, oh, turn something on, a podcast, audiobook. And anyway, but I will add it to the list. I will actually listen to it, especially if it's only a couple hours long. Come on.
Yeah, it's only like about 5. And I'll say this, that usually when I walk, I either listen to a book, to your point, listen to the bird, talk to a friend. But typically I listen to books when I'm cleaning, because I'm not going to lie. Well, I'm sure most of us, I hate cleaning. So a book helps me to keep going. So that's what I was doing. I was doing laundry and cleaning. And so it was like, keep going, keep going. So that's what it helped, to do. So, but yeah, so yeah, like I said, it was just, it was a delight, but certainly it was definitely an eye opener of like, what are you working toward again, Tiffany? Slow down.
Yeah. I'm at this period now where I really get that. And I've created this lifestyle that I just love. I'm so protective of it. Yay! My afternoons, I do take a lot of naps. I don't do this whole transformation of Mandi Money Makers has created a space where I'm not going to have to repeat myself and do the same thing again and again unnecessarily, So where I was teaching lessons again and again live, the fact that now I pre-recorded that and I can show up and do the group coaching and give that guidance fresh, and able to say no to things. And but I also feel like sometimes we are good at the whole rest thing and taking care of ourselves. And then there's like these cycles and you kind of find yourself getting out of balance again. And that's where you need that book or need that reminder. So I feel like this is going to be in my survival kit of when I start. Cause I got some stuff planned. I'm like, oh God, chaos is coming. So I can't wait to read that. I'm so grateful that not only that ministry is out there, but that their message seems to be hitting. Like we're absorbing it, changing because of it.
Hey, BA fam. Did you know a fire department responds to a fire every 23 seconds? Yes. Well, October is Fire Prevention Month. And we've teamed up with First Alert, the most trusted brand in fire safety, to help protect your whole home with safety you can trust. It's important that you install alarms on every level in every bedroom of your home. Now, once alarms are installed, it's important to maintain them by testing them regularly. Don't be one of those people on live where it's beeping in the background. Along with alarms, fire extinguishers are essential. I have them in my home on every floor. So make sure to replace the fire extinguishers on every level in common spaces like the kitchen and know how to use them. For more information on fire safety products, safety tips, educational activities you can do at home with your family, visit firstalert.com/Fire Prevention Month. Hey, BA fam. Creating visual content is an essential part of what we do here at Brown Ambition and what I do as a budgetista. But the creative process hasn't always been easy. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really techie, and I certainly don't know how to design, but that's okay because Canva is the best. Ever since I found out about Canva, I can design anything like a pro, like for real. Go see my social platform. It looks cute. In a single click, I can remove backgrounds from any image, which is a game changer, okay? Or even resize content for all of my different social media channels with Magic Resize. So you can design like a pro with Canva Pro right now. You can get a free 45-day extended trial when you go to canva.me/Brown Ambition. That's canva.me/Brown canva.me/Brown Ambition for a free 45-day extended trial. Canva.me/Brown Ambition. You're welcome.
All right, VA fam, if you are looking for help, y'all know every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, but where are you supposed to find them? That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Listen, y'all may not know this, but when I was hiring my first assistant at Mandi Money Media LLC, which is my business, I went to LinkedIn and posted a free job post. Yeah, it was that simple. And between that and posting on social media, I was able to find my incredible assistant. Shout out to Laura. And I couldn't recommend it more. Think about how the right team member might help you do that. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus some of the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/brownambition. That's linkedin.com/brownambition to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back in black from break. We have a special guest in our studio, Aiko Bethea. Am I saying last name right, Bethea?
You are, yes.
Ooh, yes. That's a very juicy black name, Bethea.
It is. I could tell you stories about that name, but yes.
So we're going to welcome her into Brown Ambition. And Mandra, tell us a little bit more about Aiko.
Give me that mic. Let me tell y'all about my friend Aiko. I have been cyber stalking Aiko for probably the past couple of years. And it was when I listened to an episode of Brene Brown's Dare to Lead podcast and heard Aiko on the podcast when I knew we needed to have her on Brown Ambition. But let me tell you a little bit about Aiko. She started her career as a grassroots community organizer. She has worked for the city of Atlanta as an attorney alongside someone y'all might know, Stacey Abrams. I don't know, little just throwing that out there. Worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where she first started to get involved with the important work of creating things like employee resource groups, leading some of the organization's first conversations around race, not because it was her job description, but because she knew that was at the core of what she wanted to demonstrate in her life and work. She dove headfirst into that equity work full time when she founded her own consulting firm. We love a badass entrepreneur, which is called Rare Coaching, where she has consulted with some of the biggest corporations globally around the country for sure. And today she is a part of the Brene Brown Education and Research Group, where she is also a senior director at Frontline Solutions, which is a Black-owned consulting firm. Aiko says she's guided by her unique background as a Black and Asian American woman with her intrinsic values of justice and loyalty and her role as a mama of 2 Black sons. With this perspective, Aiko is able to use her passion and drive to create conversations and change around race and equity in the communications and organizations that she serves.
You're incredible. Mandy. Glad to be here with y'all.
Yeah.
So happy to have you. Whew. All right, Aiko. So as someone who works with these organizations and helps them do better in ways that make workplaces less hostile for Black and brown workers, right? What is that work like? And how are you heartened by it? Like, are you optimistic by the changes that you're seeing these corporations make? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So one thing I probably say to distinguish some of the work I do is that I don't solely center on when people say diversity, equity, inclusion work, but I solely center on leadership development work, period. And my belief is that if you're a strong, competent leader, you're going to have diverse, equitable, inclusive teams and workplaces and higher retention. Like you can't do one if you're not a stellar leader, period, a competent leader. If I were only focused on equity or racial equity work or gender equity work, I would probably be exhausted all the time. So, the emotional labor behind that, mental labor behind that is concentrated in being the work and doing the work can be exhausting. So I appreciate doing leadership work as well so that people can understand the sustainability part and not just segregate it and say, oh, that DEI work is over there. This doesn't have anything to do with me. This is like the extracurricular work.
I think that's really powerful. I'm glad you said that. It's the foundation of great leadership. It's not something that you can just have your HR director do.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, Mandy.
So where do
Yeah.
you see like the biggest gaps where, I mean, I feel like there were so many promises made during, after George Floyd, and we're here now. Where do you see the biggest gaps where you find yourself saying, "This is where I need to put my time and effort and energy into"?
I think it comes down a lot of it, especially if I'm just focusing on the global north too. I think it's about people not even having the time to be human. Because to be connected to folks, for me to fully see Tiffany, for me to fully see Mandi, I need to actually not be so inundated in my own brain about all the things I need to do. So when you're always just on a hamster wheel, period, there's not that space to one, connect with people. And there really isn't that space to check yourself and also recognize the barriers that you're putting up for other people. Like that takes self-awareness, pausing, introspection, and then also the effort to retool and do something different. And so I think in the workplace, there just hasn't been enough space for one, people to be humane to themselves or to other people. And then there's this other part about just accountability. You're going to say you're doing all this stuff or we're this type of place to work. But when people don't show up that way, are they really doing harm to other folks? And usually the same people who look the same, who are less empowered in society are the ones who are experiencing that harm. But then there's no accountability. And sometimes in some workplaces, there's actually a reward to that, right? You're not spending time trying to hold the hands of your employees or get to know them. You're just getting stuff done no matter what the cost. And therefore, you're getting more of the kudos or the bonuses because you're selling more, you're working your people harder, they're producing more versus thinking about the way that people experience the workplace, or that maybe you don't have the highest retention rates, or you even have lower retention rates when it comes to your brown and black folks, your women, other folks, and no one notices that because maybe there's only two in the organization anyway.
How do you shift that perception? Because I mean, I work for publicly traded companies, and when I tell you it's all about that quarterly, report, what's Wall Street going to say? What are our margins? What's profit look like? Quarter after quarter. And I know you've worked for some really big corporations, but how do you start to shift that mentality of this stuff matters? Retention rates of Black and brown talent, engagement rates, those other measurements that you talked about. How do you start to shift that mentality and convince them that this is good for business?
So I will say one thing is the avenue that I come from is that I don't really care about the business part, right? Because that's always coming down to how much can somebody produce? And our value is definitely beyond what we can produce, right? Even though we think about what's a workplace, therefore people say profit. The other part I'll talk about is what we do know, especially since more research has been done about this with COVID, like why do people quit and leave? Is recognizing even for the Great Resignation, the number one reason that people left didn't have to do with compensation, didn't have to do with COVID, didn't have to do with remote work. It had to do with people saying, I work in a toxic culture. And the way they defined toxic culture was about a culture of disrespect, lack of ethics, dismissing issues that pertain to diversity, equity, inclusion. So you can't even keep your workforce. And how much does it cost to actually even hire and retain talent and to retrain talent? That's another thing. The other great thing is because there's podcasts like yours, there's things like Glassdoor, all these other places where we can actually assess what an organization is like before we buy from them as a consumer and before we even apply to work there. So there's greater accountability beyond the walls of an organization. And customers, consumers, people are getting savvier. They'll get online in a heartbeat to look at what's happening or find out what happened on that runway that had either clothing, products, or what have you that was disparaging to us. Everybody knows about Black Twitter. The accountability looks really different, and it's very hard to recover a brand, especially when it's harmed by its own behaviors or ethics. So I appreciate those aspects of even the social media and people being more willing to be transparent about what their experiences have been at different workplaces.
So if someone is in a workplace right now, there was, we taped the podcast, Brown Ambition BAQA earlier with the young women woman who is a nurse, and she said she looks around and no one looks like her, and she just feels like when she brings it up, the powers that be react from a place of defensiveness. So what does someone like that do when they are trying to be part of the solution? They're not looking to accuse, but just looking to create change. What are the options for her? Like, what should she be doing?
So Tiffany and Mandi, one of the things I'll tell you first is that when people come to me, especially folks of color, Black and brown people, and they share those types of experiences, the first thing I am counseling and coaching people around is giving themselves permission not to have to fix everything.
We said
permission not to educate people.
I feel good about our advice now, Tiffany.
What'd you say, Mandi?
I said I feel good about our advice.
Because we told her, they're like, girl, you don't have to carry the whole world on your shoulders, sis.
Yes.
I pretty much told her to quit, but yeah, give us your take.
Yes, free yourself. I will tell you that after usually coaching engagements, I think last year or within the last 18 months, probably 2 CEOs who I coached stepped down. So there's this idea also of centering yourself and understanding what's my purpose? What are my values? Is this aligned? Is this aligned with who I want to be as my aspirational self? If it is not, the longer you stay on that hamster wheel, the more you're going to get in a place where there's lower morale, maybe lower aspect of your self-worth, maybe further from your purpose in life. So I'm always centering the client about what do they want? I'm not going to ever be coaching you to code switch, assimilate, and do all these other things. It's what do you want? Who are you? And who do you want to be? What's your inspired self look like? So that's the first thing I'm going to say. The other part is there's a reality of what we have space to do and not do in a given moment. So everybody doesn't have a privilege to just walk off of a job or tell somebody what I really think about you. But the idea of how do you make it so in terms of what your inspired life looks like? What are the steps you need to take? But most importantly, why are you at this workplace now and how is it serving you? So now I'm making an intentional choice, an informed choice of I'm staying here because, maybe because, you know what, my kids need health insurance. Or maybe it's because X, Y, and Z, or it's serving me because I'm getting this experience that's going to allow me to be A, B, or C later. But being intentional, because one of the things that we often find ourselves doing is showing up by default. Because everybody said that's a good job and I need to stay at it. Because I should be grateful to be here. Because I don't know if anybody else will take me. Because I'm afraid of what else could be out there, what people are going to say about me. And sometimes it is, I'm more comfortable with the devil I know. But at least if you intentionally know why you're doing it, now you have ownership over your choice. And you're not just living a life by default. So those are the first things I'm telling people is to center them versus whatever's happening in the system around you. You know, I want you to notice what's happening in the system, but I don't want you to take the default route of I have to fix it or it's my problem or I need to stay here.
Yeah, I think when we were talking to that listener and then also in my work, so I have a group coaching community for women of color professionals from across the country. And I also did one-on-one career coaching, just dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of one-on-one calls. And I'm still trying to figure this out. I'm trying to encourage more women of color to look at leadership as an opportunity. And the response I'm getting is often politics, work, stress, won't be supported. Fewer of us get at the top that look like us. How can I expect to be any different? And I'm just wondering if you've heard the same things, or if you have some advice for me on how I have my own way of encouraging that and trying to not push, but just show the possibility of what can happen when we do sort of end up in those rooms and get those leadership roles. But it is one of the common things I hear again and again is, I know I could be a leader, but it seems like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of proposition. I'm going to get there and I'm going to be the razor thin margin for error is going to be like this. I'm going to screw up and get kicked out, or I'm not going to have any support. You know, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to the idea of what do you want? So one is not throwing it out because you feel like this is what it's going to be like before you get a chance to be in that seat of what is it really going to be like. Like, don't close your options off before you have the experience. You can always go and be at that high level of leadership and then decide this isn't for me. But if you jump off before it's even the opportunity, then we're allowing our the diminished expectations, and also oftentimes, unfortunately, what we've seen happen to other people dictate what our destiny is. And that may not be the case. So still, it's this idea of my mantra for my folks, my clients and whatnot. It's really, you're here to define success in your own terms. If it looks like being in that other seat, that higher seat, then go after it. But know also who you are and what your boundaries are about what you're not going to do. And if it's not what you want to do, then understand why is it that you feel like this is the story you're telling yourself and the life that you're creating for yourself, because that's really important too. Because more than likely it's some kind of other boundaries that are probably that may be breached too.
Yeah, it's that story you tell yourself, and it's also I totally agree. It's like the fear of the unknown. It's also the fact that there's so many stats that tell us how bad it is.
Yeah.
I was a journalist in my former career, and I would write about those stats, the wage gap and the women in the workplace reports from Sheryl Sandberg's organization that show how few of us are as you get up the corporate ladder. And I would always just kind of be like, not me. It can't be me. Like there, exceptions to the rule. It's an act of survival, I think, to sort of be able to recognize the stats and then also say, in spite of that, or nevertheless, what my story can be different. And that's one of the harder things I think it is to get over that mindset hump.
I think, and Tiffany's, of course, living proof of this too, is that there's also the idea of all the bright lights out there when it is done. Because if we look at the stats around entrepreneurs, women who are entrepreneurs, Black and brown women who are entrepreneurs, none of us should be in the bracket we're in, right? Then there's, on top of that, I always question data and how it's gathered anyway. So when I think about people in my community who are entrepreneurs and they're, cosmetologists doing hair, doing et cetera, they're making six figures.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily caught in the data. So I would have once upon a time been like, I'm not going to be doing hair. I'm not going to blow because I can't make a living. And now I'm looking at some of my friends and colleagues who make, 300,000 and more and they're doing hair. And that's not something that's necessarily looked at as a career for many folks. But I'm like, you've got to be able to define success on your own terms of what you want and make it so. Because if I believed everything that was written in the stats, because we know that there's so many stories about us that are not told because no one's seeking them. And then there's the idea of what does a qualitative lifestyle look like. So there's also data that shows that many of us who work in corporate America, who are making great money economically, and we went to all the schools that we're supposed to go to, we will die before somebody else who may be at a lower income bracket who looks like us. And I could give you a few guesses. I'm sure y'all know exactly why.
Stress.
And where's that stress coming from, Tiffany?
Work.
Right. Is it coming from the fact that you may not be able to pay the light bill? No, it's coming from what?
Yeah, it's just, we are tired. It's funny you say this, Aiko, because I was just sharing with Mandi earlier that I just read this book, Rest is Resistance. Oh, that's for take it out. When I tell you, every brown woman I know, she has the book in front of you, but she has two copies.
Wait, send me one because Amazon's tripping. I haven't gotten mine yet.
I am mailing these to everybody. I am mailing this to everybody.
I listened to it the day before yesterday in completion, in one sitting. I took a walk. I did laundry. I cleaned the house. It was, I wept, I cried, and then I slept because we will rest. Yes. When I tell you it spoke to my soul because we're tired. I'm tired, because you carry the whole weight of all things on your shoulders. And you're right. Like I didn't have stress when I started making really good money about, whether I could pay bills and everything else. But there was just this stress of like, success and making sure everybody else is okay. And am I doing right by my people? And am I doing enough? And this book gave me kind of like the permission that I needed, that I was already starting to give myself, is that you don't have to do anymore. You do not have to qualify or quantify your life. Like if you had stayed a preschool teacher, it would have been enough. If you adjusted the budget, Nisa, it would have been enough. If you had been a mom and stayed home, it would have been enough. If you had never had children and stayed single and had your regular, it would have been enough. You do not have to qualify your life. You don't have to add on to. I don't have to do any more. I don't owe anyone, right. And then except to show up in the fullness of who you are. And so like we are tired, we will rest. And I cannot that is the space that I'm navigating from, because it's just, I mean, I tell this to my mentees all the time, that the real work is in the reaping, not the sowing,
Yes. Yes,
because,
say it again for the people in the back.
Because when I tell you, it seems like in the beginning, I get it when you first start out, you're like, oh, no, I'm putting in so much work to plant these seeds. You think until those seeds grow trees, and those trees grow apples, and it's more apples than you could ever hold. And at first it seems like such a blessing. And then you're like, well, what baskets am I? Well, how do I even harvest apples? And where do I put them? And so meaning that, like, I'll give you guys an example. So my book comes out, it becomes a New York Times bestseller. More opportunities hit my inbox. I say yes to those opportunities. More opportunities hit my inbox. I say yes to more opportunity. I say more opportunity. And before you know it, you're drowning in all the goodness. You are literally drowning in all the opportunities. And it seems like it's such a good problem to have, but it is the reason why my blood pressure has shot up to places where I stopped taking it because I was scared to even see the numbers, 160 over something. Can you imagine? And I was like terrified to, like, I gone to the doctor and she was just like, girl, I knew I was stressed out, but I didn't know that my body knew that I was stressed out, And this is before. Yes. That's another book that I've read. Your Body Keeps the Score. And it was way before Jarrell had passed away. My husband had passed away. And it wasn't until he did that I was like, so what are we going to do, Tiffany? Are you next? You have to make a decision, girl. Like, what are we going to do? Like, at some point, you have to decide, are you going to choose life for yourself?
Yes.
Are you going to choose life? I get it. You want to help your people. You want to do good. But at what cost? Do you have to be a physical martyr for all the things? And so I decided no, that I said, you have to choose a struggle. Either you're grieving for your husband or you're going to grieve for your own life. Yes. And so I decided to get healthier, and I lost 25 pounds.
Yeah.
I eat better. I work out. Well, I walk and I relax more. And even like I have this upper respiratory like cough because I've been doing too much the last couple of weeks. But, and when I went to the doctor, she'd asked me like, do you have like, high blood pressure, diabetes, whatever. And I was like, Black people, I'm not claiming it. I was like, no. And so she took my blood pressure, which I had not had taken in like months, and it was normal. It was like 125 over like 72. Yes. And I was like, yes. Because what that means is, because although I am definitely going through a seemingly stressful part of business right now, what that means is I am learning to say, you come first. And that although those things are happening, I'm not allowing it to tear down what's on the inside. And I just want to give all of us permission that as you do the good work, it starts with you. It really does start with you, that you're not going to be helpful to anyone broken and tired and exhausted. And I'm just so glad you're here so people can hear that, yes, we want to do the good work. We want diversity and inclusion. And we want to have a voice and we want to sit at the table, but you don't have to do all the things by yourself.
And really, Tim, I have a question for you I want to ask you in a minute, and maybe Mandi too. I'm write it down here so I don't forget. But that part of starting with giving ourselves permission, sometimes we don't even know what we're giving ourselves permission to do because it's so unfathomable. Mm-hmm. So the idea of rest, many of us think we know what it is, but have never experienced it, never seen it, and we really don't know what it is. And I think on some level, our body even rejects it because it's so unknown. So you're sitting on the sofa or you're doing some different things. Girl, you need to get up and do this. Mm-hmm. The to-do list is just right there. Hey, but, and we don't know how to say no because 600 people are asking us to do stuff. So we think that if we're not doing things that are on the job, then I'm resting, but you're really not. Mm-hmm. And so this idea of imagination and world building, seeing other women do it, giving ourselves permission even to be in luxury and not feel guilty about it. Mm-hmm. But we have to start even being able to imagine it because many of us have never even seen it or felt it before. So I'd ask you, Tiffany and Mandi, like, what is it that you had to be able to do to even imagine what it looks like to rest? And one, you already gave yourself permission, but then to do it and to figure out what's working and that it's okay. What did you do?
For me, I had to take like time away. After my husband passed away, and I realized I was just like, what is all this for again? And because I prioritized everybody, and I took like time. I went to Bali for like 2 months just by myself And it was there then because I had to literally see something different. My therapist calls it a corrective experience because we tell ourselves this is the way you live life. Then you go to Bali and no one's living life that way. You know, they're eating fruit, they're taking walks, they're saying hello, they're slowly going to the beach. And it was like, that is a version of life that's happening in New Jersey. But here's another version of life. This is a corrective experience. You can live life in this way. And then quite honestly, I had to burn it all down. That's that episode that you said when you came on earlier and you said that was the one that you were like, because people were upset with me for burning it all down because they didn't see that if I didn't, I would not be here.
Or didn't care.
Yes. And so they did not know that like all that I had been doing to make sure everybody was okay and that if I didn't burn it down, that all it was for them was job loss. For me, it would have been life loss. Yes. And I was just like, so sorry about your job, but kind of want to live. So yes. I don't know what else to say, you know? And even after sharing that, there were still some people that were like, yeah, but, I was depending on that money for ... And it was really like, it's a different Tiffany now because I'm not nearly as nice as I was. I'm still kind, but now I'm not nearly as nice as I was because I realize how people will pick at the bones of your body.
Yes.
And then walk over and then eat off somebody else. And I'm not here for it.
Yes.
And so, I'm still super kind. Like, like that is, but as far as nice, no. Like, meaning that like, the posturing, I don't want people to think badly of me. Let me behave from this perspective or point of view. So that way on the outside, everyone is like, Tiffany's a good person. No, whatever you think about me, that's your business. I know how I operate. I sleep very well at night. I don't mistreat people. I try my best to navigate from a place of fairness and integrity and in alignment with what I think is best for my people. I don't take more than I give. And so however you perceive me as far as niceness or not, that's not of my concern anymore. And so that's what I had to do. I had to burn it all down and I had to like let the chips fall where they may. My biggest fear before it would always be, what will they say? And I'm sure there are lots of people out there now who say, things about me that are not super flattering. And I don't care. Sorry, sis. Like, I paid well for a very long time. You should have saved those coins when I was overpaying you to do underwork.
Yeah.
Like, let's speak on it because I promise you, wherever you're working right now, they're not paying what I was paying you because I was doing too much.
Tiffany, yes. So I would just tell you that I took many notes from that episode that you did because, it's about community. You want people to have this different experience. You want to do something different, pay people X amount, what have you. And then it was this idea of, yes, I still feel like, we're going to be generous in this way.
Yes.
But I'm not doing it for your approval.
Yes.
And this idea, so we talked about one, you got to give yourself permission to imagine something that's even possible, right? That you may not have ever even seen or experienced. Then you got to give yourself permission. The permission may actually come first to even give yourself permission to imagine, right? And then this other part of this self-worth that you're saying, which is, it can't be anchored into what the world thinks or what other people think. Yeah. So that idea of going back into who am I and what's my inspired self? Am I creating a chasm between that, my purpose and my inspired self? Mm-hmm. Or am I actually walking that? Because you're right, that burnout, if we're doing this in terms of pleasing other people, who we're supposed to be, I always talk about it being their agenda. There's a point where we go away from their agenda to our agenda. Yeah. That their agenda is, you need to do this, right? You need to go to this school, work at this place, be this kind of person in the community, whatever that story of origin is for you. You got to dismantle it. And like you said, burn it down. Yeah. What is my story and my, how am I defining success? What does it look like on my terms? And it takes a degree of courage and fearlessness to say, it looks like something I ain't never seen anybody else do. Mm-hmm. Or anybody else say it was okay. Because I know that mama and them or whoever is going to be saying you need to keep that good job or you need to help them people. And you have to be okay creating a new story.
You have to allow adults to adult. That's what I realized too. I said, girl, you ain't gave birth to no nan chick a child. The only person I am responsible for is my I look after my nieces and my nephews and my bonus daughter, Alyssa. And I'm like, these are adults. Adults. Let adults adult. Because sometimes I take so much responsibility for everybody's life that I'm like, that's you too, Tiff. Look in the mirror, sis. You stepped in, you decided that you the boss to everybody, and I'm just like, let grown people, and so that was a huge one for me too. But like when she told me that my blood pressure was normal, despite all of the shifts that are happening, now I've shared some of that stuff with Mandi, and I'm just like, I was so like, yes, you are figuring it out, Tiffany. You are choosing Tiffany. That you're allowing people to do what they need to do. You are still showing up, in your purpose. And you are focusing on, maintaining your kindness and integrity without this people-pleasing niceness that you used to bring with you, because it's harmful to everyone, not just harmful to me, but honestly, it's harmful to the people that I was being nice to, because it props them up for something that's unsustainable. And so like, it's just such an interesting space, because that's the struggle. I feel like this is why this conversation of how do we show up for ourselves while doing good work for the community? It's such a hard conversation to have, because, it's like, what do we owe the larger community of Black and brown folks? And what do we owe ourselves? I don't know any other race. I don't know, because I'm only Black, but I'm like, do other people carry so much of that heaviness of what we're supposed to do? Because Mandi and I struggle with that, right? Like, Amani's our show producer, because Mandi was like, no, I want a Black show producer, and it's just like, because like, that's what I'm wanting. So it's like, how many of those types of pushes are ours to have, versus sometimes it's like, I'm just tired.
Somebody else for our show. I didn't go out there and do a whole campaign for every podcast in America to get, you know what I mean? I'm like, where can I bother someone? Aiko, when you were asking that question, the first thing I thought of is when I had my son, my wake up call was the intense postpartum anxiety. Like, I needed to rest. Everyone tells you sleep when the baby's sleeping, but I couldn't because of the anxiety, and I couldn't shut my brain off. And, I credit coming up with Tiffany in a way. Like, Tiffany's like my big sis. She's 10 years ahead of me in so many ways. And I've gotten to absorb, and I've listened to everything Tiffany has said. So when I was building my business these past couple of years, I made such great boundaries when it came to my time and my schedule, and charging more so that I wouldn't have to work more, and, all these changes. The thing is, what I had to learn is other people haven't always been as comfortable with the way I operate. And I'm going to put my husband on blast. He's very confused about how I can still be the breadwinner and take so many naps during the week. And I feel a tiny bit of judgment, even from him, when he finds he comes home early and I'm like taking my afternoon nap, because that's what I do, because I pick up that baby from daycare at 4:30 and I want to be on. I want to be Times Square lights on for him, Disney World, mom fun. Like, I want to give him my everything, and I have to give it to myself first. So I work between 10 and 2:30 usually. For Aiko, I show up, okay, at this time. But,
Thank you for being here. Yes, thank you.
But it's interesting. And even my mom, who's like, I know that there's so many. My mom is white, actually, and she is still like, she can't sit still. Laura Jane, if you're listening to this, I know you listen to the show. You hate when I talk about you, but the woman can't sit down. You never got to watch a movie with her because she'd be doing laundry and checking that and getting up and down. And I operate very differently. And even from her, I feel that, like, you gonna leave those dishes in the sink overnight? I'm like, yep. And I deserve to sleep. And she's not that kind of person. So if you're in a space where, I'm just saying, like, if you're in a space where even other people close to you seem a little uncomfortable with the space you're giving yourself, that has nothing to do with you. And I choose not to feel an ounce of guilt about doing what needs to be done for myself. So I keep my monthly massage. I take my naps. I still bring home the damn bacon, and it's thick cut. It's not that cheap shit either. It's a good bacon. Like, I'm still bringing it home, and I'm trying not to sacrifice myself in the middle of it all. Talk to me in a year and maybe it'll be different. But that was the biggest barrier. That was the biggest challenge for me, was like, wait, y'all don't necessarily want to support me in this. Like, you judge it a little bit because of issues that are not mine, and I can't carry that with me. And now I nap great.
I love that you said that.
Also, like, Zoloft.
Yeah, because it's family of origin, one, and sometimes the people who are right in our space, because it's different to them. And sometimes it makes them question their own way or how they're showing up. And I'm glad that you also mentioned just also parenting or what have you. And even I had postpartum for probably like 2 years, but all that comes with that. And we just don't get that space to rest, to understand even what is going on with us, to be able to address it. I mean, Tiffany, I'm glad that you went to get medical, help, checking up, seeing what's happening. I just had a call from a close girlfriend today about, oh man, I'm pre-diabetic. What is going on here? And there's so many of us, and many of us don't even have the space to get to the doctor's appointment and think about ourselves unless we literally steal it and say, I'm worth it, and make it happen, because it is not one, we just are in a place where everybody works, right? That's your worth. Work. What are you producing? What are you doing? And then to be a woman, and then to be a Black or brown woman, and be able to say, I'm worth it, and I deserve this, and I need to do this for me. That's a whole nother type of mental trip to have to push back on.
Our struggle is just so damn romanticized. That's the thing.
Yes. And it's not
right. People enjoy hearing our story. So what did you do to earn all this? You must have struggled, right?
Yes.
I won't name names, but Tiff and I were on a call with a businessman. And one of the first things he said to kind of like, was like, oh, well, you guys know I had a really tough upbringing. Like almost like we also must have had one. And that's how he was going to connect with us, And it just, I still think about that conversation. And it's like, is that what you think? That's everyone's story, that we must struggle.
What's that struggle of?
Yes. Yeah. A woman told me the other day, she was like, because I grew up in the projects. I was like, oh, that's nice. I didn't. So anyway, sis, what are you talking about? And I use the word sis lightly, if you know what I mean. I was just like, what does that even, that's how you're going to connect with me? Like, you're Black, you must have grown up in the projects. And I'm just like, I mean, no, I know, but what does that even, I don't even know if people realize sometimes we just be so tired of y'all sometimes. Like, oh my goodness, we be so tired. I'm like, I mean, literally, I had a woman the other day. I was like sitting in a chair. I was taping some show. And she was like, I thought she was doing my hair. She was petting it. And she even said, oh my God, I'm so sorry, girl. I just love your hair. Don't mind me petting it. She used the word pet. And I pulled away, just looked at her. And I just was like, do you like read any books?
Was this just like in a public place?
No, I was doing a show. So I was getting like hair and makeup done. And so I was just like, I thought, I was like, okay, the makeup lady. And I thought the hair lady was but I was like, I always come my hair done because what are you going to do? So I thought that she was just rearranging it. And I was like, this doesn't feel like it. And I was just like, so I looked and I was like, is everything okay? She was like, I just love your hair. Don't mind me. I'm just petting it. And I just was like, I'm like, ain't y'all tired? Because I'm tired.
Aiko, what do you do?
Yes, what do you do?
Just
yes.
all the way rewind when you were saying, when some of your clients are saying, hey, but if I actually elevate, I have this razor thin space. And then there's, of course, the higher you go, the further you can fall. But there's also what's in that razor thin space. What are all the opportunities that are actually taken away for you to be humane? Because that's what that razor thin space is. So one, looking a certain way, talking a certain way, not being able to make mistakes, not being able to push back and ask certain questions, especially as a woman of color, not being able to hold boundaries. I mean, it's not just that it's a razor thin space. It's about what is all of the your humanity and opportunities is taken off the plate. You can't even have your hair a certain way without somebody wanting to touch it or someone meaning, what did you mean by that? Having to code switch constantly. People don't understand the price behind that. And even these other things, when you think about the experience of Black people in the U.S., especially if you're thinking about descendants of slaves, there is this rooted history of trauma. And it is hard for someone to actually accept and think, oh, wait, you had a different experience than me, because I can't even imagine it, because what could that be like? And it's that idea of modeling that this is what it could be like, and this is what you have to do, or the decisions we may have to make that are different, that could be unheard of. And I know that I have to do constant unlearning because of how I was raised in a low income household in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And what was normal is not what should be normal for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to constantly tell myself that instead of looking at other people sideways of what? You don't do such and such, or diminishing somebody because they didn't have this experience is considered the Black experience instead of thinking I'm not trying to rewrite that story.
Yes.
For my kids or impose it on other people or make them feel less than because they didn't have it. But that takes so much awareness to have to do that because in the moments, I do have these moments aside, I'm like, wait, what? And I have to say, but wait, do I want somebody else like me to have had that experience? I don't want you to have had that experience. I'm glad you didn't. That means we're getting closer to having more spaces where all of us didn't have that trauma. And it's hard.
This was such a much needed conversation. I just want to thank you so much for coming on, for pulling out of us like what so many of us are thinking and feeling, which is this diversity inclusion work starts within to decide what is it that you're wanting. It really starts with you. It's not external work. That's the biggest takeaway that I took away, that it's truly internal work and you work from that place. And you don't have to solve every problem and fix every issue. And, that if you do that internal work and if everybody did that, that's how we move the needle forward. So we just want to thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Tiffany and Mandi. I appreciate it. And I actually appreciate you all just modeling and speaking these things over and over because more of us need to hear it. More of us need to see people doing it and modeling it for us to even think it's possible to live a different way.
Thank you, Aiko. Where do you want people to find you? Send them to your website. What are we plugging? Tell us everything.
Thank you. So website is rarecoaching.net. Or on LinkedIn, Aiko Bethea, or on Instagram at rare_coach.
We will link all of that in our socials. Our description, show notes. So,
okay. Thank you again. Thank you both for having me here and also for the work that you all do. And the honesty. I really appreciate the honesty.
Oh, that's what, if there's one thing we out here is honest. Sometimes we forget. I'll be at the shop right. And someone will be like, girl, I heard what you, I'm like, I said that to
sent
you.
Me their public floor specialist the other day, and I'm like, oh, I did talk about how I have a weak bladder. Okay.
Yeah. So, because me and Mandi, we're just usually just talking to each other in an honest way because we're friends, for real in real life. And so it allows us to be honest. And so people get a peek in to what that's like. So
thank you again for inviting me.
Hey, BA fam. We're on YouTube. Woohoo! Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
And while you're at it, why don't you go over to that little bell icon and just tap that for us. Show the BA fam how much you love us. And that way you'll also get notifications when new videos drop. Also, share the channel with a friend. We're always like, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. And thank y'all so much again for all the support.